Welcome everyone to this presentation on AI tools, which I hope you're going to find to be intriguing and interesting and all of those other nice adjectives that begin with I. As for my name is Abdirizak Adam. I did my PhD in civil engineering at Chalmers University of Technology here in Sweden. And currently I'm the research lead at Avidnote. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about AI tools, some guidelines, the latest updates, and then some practical examples as well that you can use within your research. So before I start, can you hear my voice? If you can just write in the chat, so I know that people can hear and see me before I begin. Oh, good. I see people are reacting. Great. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen. And great. So hopefully you're able to see my screen as well. If not, you can just let me know and I'll amend that. 1 second. Always issues with technology. Okay, good. So let me begin. So now this is the presentation. The title is New AI Tools for Research Work. And specifically what we're going to look at are tools that relate to researchers, people working in academia. And today, all of you hopefully should be involved in the academic process as researchers in some capacity. The attention we got for this event was much higher than we expected. We had around 1,000 researchers all around Sweden that are attending. So thank you for taking the time. I'm just going to say a few words before I begin. So my name is Sabdirisak Adam. I go by Adam just for ease of use. As I said before, I did my PhD in civil engineering at Chalmers, but currently I'm the main research coordinator at Avidnote. I also have my colleague here with me, Sorayu, who will help out in the chat. So if you have any questions during the course of this presentation, feel free to ask in the chat. At the end of the session, we'll have a Q&A that we've saved up for. So you're more than welcome to join in and ask some questions. So what is this whole topic about? Well, this is a short agenda. We'll start with a brief introduction of the topic is the idea, followed by a discussion into how AI tools can be utilized in the research process specifically. So we'll talk about different facets of the research process and how AI tools can help out. And then after that, we'll delve deep into some real examples, do some practical examples in different parts when you're writing research papers or analyzing data and stuff like that. And then at the end, we'll talk about some important ethical considerations. Yeah, because as you know, these tools have a lot of good use cases, but there's also some negative ones. So we'll talk a little bit about that and how you should navigate that. And then at the end, we'll do the Q&A, hopefully. And as I said, if I didn't do that already, the event is being recorded. So my colleague Sorayu will be able to send out a copy of the recording for everybody after the event, for those of you who are interested in that. Okay, so I can just begin with the presentation. We'll talk a little bit about LLMs, just a few words. I'm sure most of you are familiar with ChatGPT. If you haven't tried it out, it's easy to use and you can get started. They have a free plan and a paid plan and stuff like that. But essentially, it's the whole thing that got the whole ball starting with the LLMs, large language models. These are models that are basically able to mimic human speech. So you ask it something, it answers as if it was a human. Sometimes it's eerily scary. Sometimes you're almost not convinced it's a computer. And the reason they're able to do this is because these AI tools have been trained on billions of parameters. Essentially, they fed in the whole internet into the structure, and then the output has become basically these tools, these sort of chatbots. What they do is they're mimicking speech. They're not really understanding speech. And that's very important consideration, which we'll talk about more later on when it comes to the limitation of these things. But specifically, these are LLMs or sort of large language models. They can generate, short and long form text and do complicated tasks. And for our research purposes, we're interested in that. Like, how can we improve our research process when it comes to reading, writing, and stuff like that? So if we look at this topic now, the way that I like to think about it is to sort of divide this into different facets. So the research process is composed of reading aspects, right? When you're reading papers, you're reading reports and so forth. Then you have analysis, you also have writing and so on. So if you look at the reading process, these AI tools can be used to simplify that. And some of the key functionalities here are, simplifying text that are complicated, expanding text. So you've written something, the AI expands upon it, translating text, of course, creating summaries. So inputting like parts of a paper or an entire paper in some cases, and the AI will sort of go through it and create a summary. I would say when it comes to these aspects of like summaries and simplification of text, the accuracy level is extremely high. The places where you should be more wary in when it comes to sort of reproducing facts or citing specific citations, it can sometimes just make up citations. So you need to be careful there. But when it comes to sort of simplifying text, analyzing text, and sort of creating summaries, it's very, very good. Another use case is sort of getting opposite views. So imagine you're reading into a topic, you understand that topic, but you want to know what is the contrarian opinion of whatever this person is arguing. So what you can do in that case is you can take that whole segment that you're reading, feed it into the algorithm, and then it can give you sort of an opposite view. What is the contrarian view? What do other people say regarding this topic that do not agree with this specific author? And we'll use some examples of that later on so you can see. You can also get an academic critique. I like to call it, be peer reviewed before you're peer reviewed, sort of a mock trial. And then there's a lot of other functionalities that we can dwell deep into. When it comes to the analysis part, you can use the AI to help you analyze stuff, to sort of find insights, correlations, interpret data, and basically provide an analysis for whatever data or text input that you're giving it. And you can also use it to code interviews. So we'll take a specific example later on in this presentation when we get to it, hopefully, where we can show you how you can not only code and analyze an interview for those who are doing qualitative research, but also it can do automatic transcription. So you can put in an audio file and you don't need to sit there for hours and then, transcribe. It does it in seconds, and then it also analyzes the interview. But hopefully we'll get to that later on. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. And then the other two aspects that I would say that are important are things that deal with methodology. So for example, if you're in this case, we're talking about qualitative research, generating research questions, but it's the same. Like, for example, in quantitative sciences, you may want to know what research approach should I take, or should I use a Spearman correlation here, or should I use Pearson? Whatever type of sort of issue you have that deal with methodology, the AIs can suggest appropriate methods that you can use. And it can also suggest like keywords for literature study and things of that nature, or if you're trying to find a good theoretical framework for your study, you can paste in your study and then the AI can suggest that. When it comes to the writing aspect, I would say this is sort of the one part that has gathered the most attention, both on the positive side and the negative side. On the positive side, of course, it can help out as a research assistant, helping you in your writing process. And the most important thing here is it says interpret or analysis here, but I think the text there should say really write. What it can help you do here is it can help you write stuff. But it can't replace the writing process, and that's very, very important to sort of emphasize. It doesn't replace the writing process. It only sort of enhances it. And so the functionalities that are included here are sort of writing text, rewriting text, proofreading text, and a lot of other functionalities that are along this line. And essentially, the way that I look at it is it's sort of like an assistant that provides different potential things that you could use in a paper. But even if you do so, you should still revise, fact check, rewrite, provide accurate sources, the same way you would basically handle any research related task. Okay, so now specifically, we're going to look at two tools that are being developed specifically for academic use cases. Because if you look at ChatGPT, it's really generic. So the language is generic, the tools is generic, whereas there are research tools that are specific for people in academia and research. We're going to take a look at two tools, Kahubi and Avinote. So both of these have free versions. With Avinote, the second one, you're also able to get the premium version for free if you're a researcher in a Swedish institution, a Swedish university or college. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end of how that works. So Avinote, just to describe what it is, it started out as a note-taking tool for researchers and a sort of a digital platform where you can, upload your papers and take notes on them and organize everything. But since then, it's now been enhanced with the AI capabilities. And essentially, the tool, the way it works is that you have your notes that you're writing on the left side, and then on the right side, you have whatever paper you're reading, and you can take notes, you can highlight, you can colorize, you can create post-it notes that are connected to that specific document. And so you always have what you're reading and what you're writing side by side. So you don't switch between the PDF and the text that you're writing. And then if you take a step back, it gives you an overview of all of your papers and notes and tags in one easy to use interface. So it becomes very easy to find stuff and also to create tags and things of that nature. So if I just jump in here now and show you a little bit of how it works. So now I'm logged into AvidNote. And if you want to follow along, you can just go to avidnote.com. And if you go to avidnote.com, what you do is you just register a free account, and then you can follow along. Or if you just want to listen, you can follow the presentation. So inside here now, I'm inside the document view. And as you can see, I have like all of the documents that I've uploaded here. And if I search for something, it will find it. And it also has all of my research notes for every document that I've uploaded. And if I search for a specific keyword, it will find that specific keyword. And here I have my tags. So for example, machine learning or my PhD thesis, and then it will sort all of my stuff based on that tag. You can also sort stuff by project. So you can create a project. For example, here's a computer science course that I'm teaching, and I've uploaded some assignments, and here are my notes that I've created here. And when I open it up, I get the document that I have here, and I have the notes that I'm taking here, where I can sort of write stuff. And if I go back to this view here, I can upload stuff. And in order to start with the AI stuff or whatever functionality of AvidNote, you would start by uploading a PDF or uploading any document. It can be a Word file or a PowerPoint or whatever, Excel. So you click Upload PDF, and then you just choose a document that you want to upload. It doesn't necessarily need to be connected to the AI stuff that you're doing, but it helps. Once you upload a document, you will get this view here, and you can sort of start taking notes if you want to do that. And give it I'll call this notes on paper or something. And when I save, you can see that that has been created. I can create as many notes as I want. And I can, of course, paste in stuff here as well. So with the AI functionality, in order to access that, what you would do is you would click on the AI tab. And here inside the AI tab, you can just select any text. So for example, I'll select this text here, and I'll paste it in. And then I can choose any of the pre-made templates that are for research purposes. So if you look at some of them here, for example, suggest keywords for literature search or identify research gaps. So you can paste in a text, and then the AI will identify research gaps. I'll start out with rewrite this text, which is one that I tend to use a lot. So when I click rewrite this text, the AI will take whatever text that I put in here, and then it will try to rewrite that. So here is the input that I gave it. This is the text that I copied, and this is the AI's output. So it gave me a rewritten version. It says, in this rather gloomy environment, one encounters the domain of construction, which is constantly besieged by the underlying yada, yada, yada. So basically, it's rewriting this text here, which was very flowery to begin with. And if we look at a paper that I've already taken a bunch of notes on, here, another paper that I uploaded before, you can see all the notes that I've taken inside the AvidNote view here on the right side. And the AI here, you can see all of the searches that I've made before, the AI searches that I've made. So let's take another example of a different use case. So if I take this text here, for example, and I want to understand what this means, let's say it's written in a very complicated jargon, which we researchers tend to write in, or maybe I should just speak for myself. And sometimes it's difficult to understand. So what you can do is you just copy that and then paste it in. And when you paste it in, you click search. And what it will do is, because I selected explain this to me, it will now try to explain whatever text that I wrote inside this view here. So in this case, it's this little text snippet that I just copied from the side here. And what it does is, as you can see, let me zoom in a little bit. I think it's a bit zoomed out. So when I go here to the text view, you can see my input that I put in, the text, and then the explanation that the AI gives. So the AI says this text is is discussing the application of total quality management concepts in manufacturing industry, yada yada yada, and then it explains basically what the text is saying in easy English instead of having this sort of complicated language that the author was using. And then it also gives you glossary of terms so you can understand exactly the different terms that are being used in that section. And you can copy in much larger text as well, and it will go through all of that and analyze it and sort of give you an explanation to it. A different use case that you can also do is you can summarize stuff. So for example, if you take the same thing here from, say, this manufacturing industry part, let's take like this whole page here. And let's say I want to hold this whole section here. I want it to summarize it for me. So I can just click summarize, and then the AI will sort of go through that and it will summarize it. For much larger searches, if you want to like do several pages text, it's better to use the other tool, Kahubi, which we'll talk about later, which has a bigger capacity to handle more text, basically. So these are basically the different functionalities that you can use for it. And one thing that I wanted to show before I leave here is I'll show something from the research methodology as well. So let's say, for example, you are doing a study for a survey study, and you want to ask about my study. You can explain in whatever language. So my study is about, say, machine learning, for example, and its effects on the future job market, just as an example. You can write in whatever text you want to write in. I'm just doing this as an example. So the AI will now, because I selected suggest questions for a survey study, it will then provide some potential questions that you could use for your questionnaire if you're doing a questionnaire study, for example. And it takes, depending on how big the input is, it might take a few seconds, up to a minute. So in this case, it gives me this answer. Introduction questions: what is your full name? Your age, highest level of education, are you currently employed? So these are some potential questions you could start out asking. And then some main questions. It asks, for example, machine learning can positively impact job creation industry that require data analysis and so forth. It gives you a lot of different points that you could sort of use in that study. You can do the same thing for a study. If you want to do an interview study, for example, I change it up. And then instead of doing a survey-based stuff, it will give you interview-based stuff. While that is loading, I can just show a little bit on this side how this works. So here you have the annotations that you've made, and you can see all of them on the right side. So it can skip to the different pages, and it can also see the sort of notes that you've written. So in this case, I wrote använd denna i en konferensartikel, which is like a reminder to myself. And you can also download this. So if you want to download the entire paper, you can do that. It will download to your computer as a PDF with all of the annotations attached to it. And it can also, you can also create notes by just selecting a section and then clicking on the highlight button. You can change the colors and stuff like that as well. And here are some of the questions that you can then use for machine learning. And then it gave me all of these suggestions. So this is the gist of the AI tool, I would say, for AvidNote. One final thing that I'll show is the proofreading part, and then we can move on to the next tool. Let me just see how much time I have. Okay, good. I'm good on time. So the final one that I want to show that is also used a lot is proofreading text. So you can take any text from any place. So I'll just take a text from here, for example. I'll take this text here. And then I paste it in. And here I can, I'll do some mistakes here and there. So the grammar becomes messed up just for the purposes of this example. I'll do a few more mistakes here and there. And then we'll see what the AI can sort of help me proofread my text and not just look for spelling errors. It will also suggest improvements to the text, hopefully. So if we click there and we click proofread this text, it will then chug along as we saw before. And then based on, once again, how big the input it is, the more time it will take. The longest times it can take is up to a minute, I would say. Usually doesn't take longer than that. So in this case, it shows me, as I showed you before, the input once again, and you have the output here with the revised version. Now, because I don't trust the AI 100%, I also it's been instructed to also give you the changes that it actually made to the text, so you know exactly what it did, right? So in this case, it revised the version. It created a much cleaner version with the text, and then it said what the corrections it made. It changed research to research instead of the plural. It removed these duplicates, yada yada. And then at the end, it gives some suggestions on further improvements. Like the original text is generally clear and concise. Thank you. That was actually my article, I think. No, this is another article. Sorry, it's not mine. The original text is generally clear and concise, but there are a few errors in the grammar, spelling, and punctuation that need to be corrected. And then it says to expand on the text, it would be helpful to provide examples of case studies of how OpenAI innovation has been implemented and so forth, yada, yada. And you can, of course, take this text that you have here and you can, paste it into Word, or if you want to create a new note, you can create a new note, revised, whatever, and I'll paste it in and I'll search, and then that has now been created, my new note. And if I go back, you'll see that this is the new note that I've created. So one final thing that you can do before I leave the AvidNote platform is you can also, if you go to the settings under Manage My Data, you can export your data, but more importantly, under Advanced Settings, you can enable searching from a database. So you can search Google Scholar inside AvidNote. So if you're inside AvidNote, you can search, for example, any keyword. So in this case, I'll search for Marie Curie. And if there's a paper available, it will show you a PDF symbol. Sometimes you may get a bug or two because the Google Scholar claims the PDF is there, but it's actually not there. There are some errors that can come up. So just try to refresh the page or do a new search. Or of course you can upload the PDF manually, which should always work. So now we have the paper that I've uploaded here, which is this one with the Marie Curie, and of course I can start, copying stuff and taking notes and stuff like that, and use the AI search here as well. And if I go back, you see the new papers that has been taken in here, and it actually keeps the reference info. If it gets it from Google Scholar, you don't need to manually tell the reference information. It will automatically understand where it came from. If you do it like manually, you need to put in the reference info. Now, of course, you don't need to use AvidNote as a reference tool. I would say the majority of our users just use it for note-taking and AI, and they keep using whatever, Mendeley or Zotero or whatever you're using. So you don't need to change systems, which is important thing to say. Okay, so if we continue on with the presentation, where do we have the slide? Yeah, here we have it. So this is a little bit of an overview of AvidNote. So AvidNote has a free version that anybody can use, which is limited. There is also a premium version, but as researchers, if you have an account with a Swedish university, you can also get the premium version, which usually costs the $200 per year. You can get that for free. And the only request for you to get it for free is that you would notify the IT department at your university, and just send them an email. Tell them that you like AvidNote to be provided, or you want AvidNote to be available for the researchers at your university, and then send us an email after you've done that, and we will upgrade you for free immediately. And the reason we're doing this is because we have dialogues and discussions with several universities in Sweden regarding a site license for all of their users. And the university, they only provide a license for everybody if there's enough need within the university. So basically, when we discussed with them, what they said was, if you can show us that people are interested in the tool, then we will buy it for everybody, and the individual researchers don't need to buy anything. So from our point of view, speaking for AvidNote, we don't really want individual researchers to pay with their limited funds. We would much rather the central IT department to purchase it. So if you can just send an email to them and let them know that you're interested in having AvidNote being available for your university, you can then, after you've sent IT an email, send us an email afterwards, and we will upgrade you from our side immediately. So just make sure you have a free account first so we can upgrade you. So this is AvidNote. So now we're going to talk about the other tool for AI, which is Kahubi. And then at the end, we'll talk about some ethical stuff and some Q&A. So everything we talked about so far has been AvidNote, which is this, as you saw, a note-taking tool that also has all of these AI functionalities. Now we're going to talk about Kahubi, which is an AI tool which is newer. So it's the newest product that we have on AI. and it's a dedicated AI tool for researchers. So it includes really all of the functionalities that we talked about with AvidNote, except the PDF stuff and the note-taking stuff. It doesn't do that. So if you're interested in that stuff with the note-taking and the PDF stuff, I would focus more on AvidNote. But if you're interested specifically only in the AI tools, I would say Kahubi is more designed for those purposes. So it has all of the writing, reading, and analyzing stuff, but it also has a lot more. So for example, you can do automatic transcriptions. Probably it's not relevant to everybody here because we have people from everything from math, physics to people who do qualitative stuff within, say, business research or psychology or whatever. But if you do interview studies, I would say this is probably one of the biggest helps because you can import an entire audio file. It will give you the whole transcript, and then it will analyze everything for you immediately as well. So let's just look at how Kahubi works and how it's different from AvidNote. So with Kahubi, what you can do is you have all of the same. I'm logged in now into kahubi.com. So if you want to follow along here as well, you can just go to this. You can click Kahubi here, or Surayo maybe can post a link in the chat to the tool so people can find them. So what you see here is when you go to the website, you can read about it, and then when you register for free, you end up on this page. So inside this page, you have all of the different AI templates. Inside AI templates, and these are the ones that we saw in AvidNote as well. Suggest questions, analyze data, code and analyze interview, so forth and so forth, and also the writing part. So you can write a literature review or a discussion or an abstract, right? So, for example, if I have an abstract, write a study. Or say a study about, or maybe it's better to I post. Let me just post from a paper, a copy from an actual paper. And then I'll put it in and I'll say generate text. And basically what it will do is it will, in this case, I selected write abstract. I could have just selected write literature review or historical overview or whatever prompt that I wanted to save it. So it will give me the abstract here, and then I can start adding stuff to it, right? I can add results and whatever. Add text basically. And this text here, you can save it. So I can save this as, for example, say abstract, new study, whatever. And I can pick a workbook. So I've already created some workbooks here to say this, for example, a conference paper, and then I can save. I can also download this as a Word file. So if I want to download the input here, whatever I've written plus what the AI wrote, I can just export as Word file or as a PDF. And if I go here to the documents view, all of the different prompts that I've done and all of the different documents will be shown here. And I can just click on it and it will then show me basically what I did before. So this was an earlier one that I did, and it will basically give me that. So this part I would say is similar to AvidNote. The difference is basically the interface in how you can do stuff. I forgot to mention in AvidNote, you also have the Ask Anything, which is the same as ChatGPT. You also have it as a chatbot here inside Kahubi. So if I open up the chatbot, I can open up the ChatGPT, and we're using actually for this purpose, we're using the ChatGPT version, the 16K version, which is the latest for the 3.51. And here I can just ask it anything, right? So I don't know, where is Stockholm located? So this is like the basic chat functionality that you would also see in ChatGPT, where you ask it something and then it will respond. You can also create many different chats for different purposes, and you can save these also. You can download them as Word files. So if you want to download the whole conversation, you can do that, or you can save the conversation as well. Now, something that is very useful, which is different from AvidNote inside here, is that it supports a much larger model. So what you can do here is you can import actually an entire paper. In AvidNote, you're limited to about 2,000 characters. We're working on fixing that, but for now, I'm sorry, around 2,000 words. I mean, around 1,500 to 2,000 maximum. Whereas in Kahubi, you can put in like 10,000 words, which is the average size of a research paper is typically smaller than that. So, for example, if I take this paper here, let me take the whole paper. I'm just going to copy all of this. And I'm going to basically see if it can summarize this for me. So this is a pretty long input. Sometimes it may take time. And if a lot of people are using it at the same time, it could sometimes clog up. But we'll hope that it works. So summary is under read. So if you look at all of the functionalities that deal with reading, you have summary here. So for example, if I click summarize text and I click the paste in the whole text here, and I can choose the creativity, how creative it wants to be. I'll just leave it at average if I was you, and I would also leave max result as average. Number of results is if you want to get different variants, so you can get like different results. And it's good if, for example, if you want to have like not one response, you want to have 3 different responses and then compare them, you can select that. And then it's going to try to give you different variants of the same, basically of the same response. So now, as you saw, I put in an entire research paper from beginning to end, and it gave me a summary of that paper, of the entire paper, which is pretty cool. And I would say the summaries are extremely accurate. Like when it comes to the AI cases, this is where it's better. It's usually a lot good, like very good at summarizing stuff or rewriting text accurately. It's more about when it comes to learning about stuff you don't know about. So for example, like learning about a topic you have no knowledge of, I wouldn't use AI. I mean, you can use it, but I wouldn't trust it. So you always need to verify. And Kahubi actually means verify in a different language. So if we go back to dashboard and you open up, I want to show this tool again because I think it's pretty cool. So if we go to ask and we ask a text, so I'll do the exact same thing that I did before. I'll copy this entire paper. And I'll use this prompt here, which is called ask this text. So basically you can talk with your text and you can ask the paper questions, right? So what you can do is you can paste in the entire article here, and then you can ask it questions. So for example, I'll ask a question about the text. I'll ask what are the conclusions of this paper? And then I'll ask, for example, does this paper discuss dynamic capabilities? And then I'll leave the third one blank just for the purposes, and I'll click generate text. So you can ask any questions about the text, and what it will do is it will go through the entire text, and then it will go through your questions and see if those questions, try to provide answers for those questions based on the text that you gave. So in this example here, it says the conclusion of this paper are not explicitly stated. However, the paper discusses the importance of open innovation in today's world and various factors that contribute to its success, yada, yada, yada. And then the second question, does this paper discuss dynamic capabilities? Yes, this paper discusses dynamic capabilities, and that's correct. I double checked. It states that open innovation requires new management approaches and deep capabilities and technology, yada yada. So it's and then the third one was empty, so it didn't give anything. So this is very useful. You can basically interrogate your paper that you're reading and ask it questions about. So if you want to know, does this discuss this topic here? You know, the AI can look through the text and see if it discusses that topic. So you don't have to read the whole thing through just to find that answer. So that's a way that you can save time. One final thing that I'll show on the templates before or actually I can start with the transcription first. So the transcription part is useful, I would say, number one, if you're doing a lot of interview studies. I used to do that in the past in some of my studies. It's a big hassle. It takes hours to transcribe. If you want to do it automatically, you can basically upload the audio file. It can also be actually meeting. So for example, I upload meetings that I have internally here, and it can analyze the meeting for me and give me like the main stuff from the meeting, you know, what people decided on and stuff like that. So if you have like team meetings, even if you're not doing interview studies, you can use this tool. So, or department meetings, for example. So here I have an interview with Robert Oppenheimer. Obviously, I didn't do that interview. It's from it's an old interview from the 1950s. So I select the MP3 file. I would recommend MP3 because it's the smallest size. And the only limit here is the size of the file. So it can be maximum 25 megabyte, but it can be as long as possible. So the interview can go on for hours, but as long as the file is less than 25 megabytes. And if you need help to sort of compress your file, you can just contact us and we'll help you out for no cost. It's actually very easy. You can search on Google as well how you can reduce the size of an audio file if it's too big. So you upload the file and then you have the description. You can leave this blank. If you want to help the AI, you can try to help it out what the text is about. And then you can choose which language to get the output. So you can choose if it's in English or if it's the source language, for example, Swedish. If you keep the source language, it's going to give you the source language transcription. In this case, the interview is in English, so I'll just leave it at that. And then you click on the generate button. And then depending on how big the file is, it may take anything from like say a few seconds up to maximum 1 to 2 minutes to basically transcribe the whole thing. And usually this like to transcribe an hour of text will take like 4 hours, but it will do it in about a minute or so. And when you have the whole transcription, you can then you can use that and you can put it into the analysis part in the templates, and you can basically get an analysis of your whole interview. So while this is loading, I'll just show the other things. So the other view is for people who do more programming. I would say this is mostly useful for people in IT and for maybe mathematics and some parts of physics where you do programming, and you can use that here as well to provide instructions. And in order to get an overview of everything that you have, you can find them in your documents. Here you can find all transcripts, all of the codes, all of the workbooks. So the workbooks are like the notes books. I created one for interview transcripts, for example, research papers for another one, conference paper for a third one, and so forth. You can just create as many as you want. You can also change. So for people who like the dark view, you can change it to dark view. Looks a bit cooler, I think. And if you go back to the dashboard, the main dashboard, you'll have all of your favorite templates basically shown here. So let me show you here. So this is the favorite templates. Proofread this, which I like to use a lot. I like to use the explain one, the write one, and the summarize one. So let's, yeah, it's still going on here on the transcription part. So while that is going, I'll just show one more thing here that I find to be useful. And this is the, which one is this? It is the opposite view. So for opposite view, I think we talked about this in the introduction. So imagine you're reading something. So I have a paper or like a document here on debates on nuclear power. So obviously, if you're familiar with this, there's two sides. One side are arguing nuclear power is good, it doesn't give a lot of CO2 emissions and so forth. The other part are saying it's bad, it's dangerous, yada yada. So let's imagine I'm reading something and I'm new to this. I've never read about this debate, so I'll copy in the text that where somebody's arguing for something. I'll use the what is the opposite view template, and then I'll click generate text. And what the AI is doing then is it's trying to find the opposite view of in the academic space. And this is very important, both for Avidnode and Kahoot!. All of the prompts have been trained specifically to give academic answers. So they're tailored for an academic response. They've been trained on a data set that are academic material. So in this case, you can see the argument here is that the proponents are saying nuclear power is good, right? I'll zoom in a little bit more. Whereas the people who are contrarian, the opponents, they're saying, there's safety concerns. They're talking about waste management, how we're going to handle all of the nuclear waste, limited resources. It's a finite resource, yada, yada. So this, I think, is an accurate sort of representation of the two sides, right, of this side. And if I would put in this, it will give me the opposite view as well. So I think that's very useful. Okay, so this is the final part here. You can see the whole interview has been transcribed. I'm not sure if you're able to hear, but you can listen to the interview. So this is an old audio recording, so you can hear that it's a bit gray, sort of crispy. I'm not sure if you heard that or not, but basically you can listen back to the interview. And because the accuracy level is around, I think 95% is the accuracy level of the AI tool, that means that basically it will make a mistake like every 20 words or something. So you still have to read through it and you have to make sure that it gets those accurate. But I think 95% accuracy is really good. So if you want to do like here you have the text as an example, it says they learn later that the length of a line is or that a figure has 7 sides and not 6. All the things that have to do with number come later, yada yada. So basically what you can do is you can start fixing this. So if you want to do, for example, this is Oppenheimer speaking, I can add that in and so forth. And I can correct my text and I can save this. So if I save this as Robert Oppenheimer interview, I can't spell, transcript, and I can save this. And what I can do, and this is the beauty, not only do you get like the whole transcript, you can copy this and you can go to AI templates, and then you can go to code analyze, analyze interview, and you can paste in the entire transcript and then basically click generate text. And then the AI will go through the entire transcript and it will give you different themes. It will try to analyze the text. It will give you like significant citations or quotes from that specific transcript. And it does all of this usually within seconds. So as I said before, like up to a minute for long cases. So I'll close everything down. This is the final one, so I can close everything down here. So this is a very long prompt, actually, so probably going to take like a few seconds. Okay, so now it gives me the response. It says analysis of the interview. The interview is with Dr. Robert Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer provides insights into the Institute of Advanced Studies and its purpose. And then it talks about some key themes. The purpose of this institute. It talks about the diverse field of study at the institute. Oppenheimer mentions the various fields represented at the institute, including mathematics and physics, yada yada. He talks about concerns about secrecy and the spread of knowledge. Raises concerns about the negative impact of secrecy. And then it gives you some significant insights, like actual quotes taken from the paper. First, some significant insights that the AI can find, and then actual quotes. So the actual quotes are here. It says, for example, we are here as an institution to take away from men the cares, the pleasures that are their normal excuse for not following the rugged road of their own life and need and destiny. He sounds like a poet the way he was speaking. And then it gives a commentary. This citation reflects the purpose of the institute as a place for scholars and scientists and yada yada. So if you want to try out Kahoot!, you can go to kahoot.com and you can use the free version. Unfortunately for Kahoot!, we're not able to get the premium version for free as of yet. We're working on that to talk about with the universities because with Avinote, they already have a discussion where they're discussing to take it in as a tool. So there you can get the premium version for free. For Kahoot!, you can use the free version. If you fill up there, either you can upgrade to a premium plan, or maybe you can talk to your department head if you want the department to take it in. Okay, so the final thing here is to talk about some important considerations. So I think we can summarize this whole thing here today about AI as we should view AI as a tool. Hopefully, you should have gotten some ideas on ways that it can be used for research purposes. So like all text that you get, you should need to discard, you need to edit, you need to provide, of course, your own text, you need to provide references. Because I should warn you here that the AI, when it provides references, it can make stuff up. So you have to be careful there. Now, of course, if you have domain knowledge of that topic, you will immediately know if it's saying something that's crazy or something that's accurate. So for example, I did my studies in construction management. If I ask it to write a literature review about the main events in the past 20 years in Sweden for construction industry, I will immediately see if it's saying something useful or not because I have like a domain knowledge of that topic. So it can give me some ideas to, okay, this is interesting. And then I can go to Google Scholar, I can go to Scopus or whatever, Web of Science, and I can look into to find actual sources, and I can provide those. I can write my own text, I can edit it. So you can view it as a tool, not as a replacement. I like to say you should view it as Word, not as Word, sorry, but as Google. So for example, when you Google something and you get an article, you don't just take that article and publish it, right? That's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. So what you need to do is you need to provide proper sources. If you maybe take like a sentence or two, you highlight that, you reference back to the source. And then you don't trust, but you verify. You always verify, right? You don't just take something. So the way that I like to look at the generated text that AI gives you is sort of like Wikipedia articles. Now, I know that there are some people now who are saying, some librarians, for example, they talk about how you should cite OpenAI, cite ChatGPT and stuff like that. Personally, I would never cite like a generated text. I wouldn't cite it. I would use it as part of the tools like analyzing my own work, rewriting stuff, expanding my text. And then, like many journals have now stated, you can state in the research methodology that you used this tool specifically for analyzing stuff, which is what we've been doing so far anyway, right? When you're like analyzing stuff, regardless if it's qualitative or quantitative, you always state in the research methodology part what tools you use to analyze to get stuff. So I would put it in there. So the reason I personally don't cite AI stuff is because, well, the AI is not a person. So, and it's also generative. So if you find like a generated text that the AI wrote, for example, on a web page, if you do the same prompt, it's going to give you a different response every time. And the whole purpose of finding like a citation is because you want to find what that specific author said. So the way we should use these AI tools are as tools, not as replacement of the research process. And I think this is sort of the growing consensus among Swedish universities as well. So for example, I saw recently Lund Universitet, Stockholms Universitet, and a couple of other universities have basically put out guidelines for AI tools. And what they're saying is basically that you should use these as tools for the research process. It should not replace that process. And specifically, for essays and examinations and for students, you should complement with other forms of examination. And I think that's very important as an educator myself. For example, before you could just give like a home assignment, like skriv den här uppsatsen. Like personally, I think these days we should complement this with also like with an oral defense of that thing that they are writing. So if they're writing, say, an article about whatever topic, there should also be like an oral examination at the end where you ask them, okay, how did you get this? Why did you use these authors and not these authors? Could you explain this topic? How you thought about this? As soon as you start asking questions, it's quite obvious who actually did wrote the text and who didn't write the text. So I think we shouldn't be fearful of the technology. We should, I think, be careful of knowing its limitations, what it's good at, what it's not good at, and what it's good at. And it's very good at summarizing text, rewriting text, but it's also very bad at, or I should not very bad at, but it's potentially bad at, providing sources and also like giving facts of things that you don't really know things about, that you don't have a domain knowledge of. Okay, so that's really everything. So if you want to get started, you can use Kahoot! At kahoot.com, and you can test it out for free. Avinote also has a free account, but with Avinote, if you want to use the premium account, you can get that free as well with no time limit. So you can use it basically indefinitely, the premium version. And to get the premium version of Avinote, all you have to do is contact your IT department. You let them know that you would like Avinote to be used at the university, that they should provide Avinote for their staff. And if you've done that, you can then just email us, either email me or go to the contact form, or you can email Sorayo, it doesn't matter. And then we will upgrade you for free. It usually takes within the same day. Okay, that's everything. Sorry for going a little bit over time. If you have questions, we can go through them now. And while you're waiting, you can also sign up. So I'll stop the presentation. I'll go through the Q&A here.